Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm Mr. Smokey Rameriz from the Trash Talk. How you doing?
I'm good, JJ. How are you?
I'm doing good myself.
I guess I should give you the weather update, huh?
Oh yeah.
You know what? It has actually gotten cold. Surprisingly, we're actually maybe even a few degrees colder than it is up north around Pennsylvania, New York area. From what I understand, like we actually had a little dip and almost got to freezing. Not quite yet. It's supposed to warm up again, which is not surprising for this time of year, but it is surprising that we got down close to freezing in October. That is very unusual for here, but I'm sure we'll be back up into the 80s very soon. How's the weather over there?
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of overnight freezing over the last couple of weeks, but today it's actually been fairly warm. Not like summer temps, but like room temperature. So that's actually like on the warmer side. But yeah, it's been getting colder. Summer is over. You notice it. It hasn't really been like a late summer heat wave thing that sometimes happens where it gets cold and then like a couple weeks later like picks up again for like another week or two. I haven't really had that this year, it seems, but yeah. Hope weather's fine.
Yeah. Oh man, it'll be freezing before you know it here. You know what's crazy though is I don't know if I've ever talked about this with you, but we used to get snow every single winter, at least a day or two. But we haven't had a real snow, like a snow that actually stayed on the ground for any significant period of time since 2014. Up until that, it was every single year. But now we haven't had it in a decade. So climate change is happening.
Yeah, I mean, we have been getting snow most years still. I mean, it used to be that it was like consistently every year you'd have like at least a couple of weeks where it was like snowy out. Lately, I think there have been 1 or 2 years where we didn't have any snow. But still most years. But I mean, that makes sense. We're a lot further north. So
yeah, definitely. But it is crazy to see the change. When I was a kid, get that sometimes up to a week even of solid snow on the ground. We could get like 2 of those per year some years. But we go an entire decade without snow at all. Like some years we won't even get flurries at all at any point in time.
Yeah, no.
So either the weather changing to where there's just not enough humidity falling at the right point in time when it is that cold, or the Earth is definitely heating up.
I mean, it's probably a bit of both. I mean, the weather patterns are generally shifting, of course, but it's probably primarily the temperature because I think technically humidity should be going up, although I think that's also like it depends a little bit on where you are. That's also the thing that people. I think we talked about this to some degree before, but like people get that wrong, right? Like it's not like global warming isn't just like everything gets warmer all the time, but sometimes it's just weather patterns shifting, and so you might get like it's just hotter earlier, and then maybe there's like a cold phase thereafter, and then it gets hot again or something like that, right? So we usually had the last couple of years we had like fairly warm springs, followed by almost like a return to winter, and then it goes into summer, which obviously is not great for certain plants when they just stop blooming and then starts freezing again. It's like, ooh. So yeah, and some things just shift. I mean, obviously, on average, it still gets warmer, but there can still be outliers in different directions, right? It can get wetter, it can get drier, it can get warmer, it can get colder sometimes even. But yeah, it's just generally fucking with the weather system quite a bit. And I find it hard.
Oh yeah,
I find it hard to take seriously the people that are doubting climate change because, as you said, right, like just pay attention to the weather. Like it's kind of weird that like winters aren't as cold as they used to be, and summers are certainly hotter, and people are still like, there's no climate change. But I guess that is people are moving a little bit away from that and be like, well, yeah, sure, the climate is changing, but it's not like it's a human's fault. It's like, come on. Like, stop moving goalposts.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Especially being in an election year. I feel like a lot of the doubters have come around to like, okay, it is changing, but it's a natural occurrence. Now, and I've heard scientists that study that sort of thing actually mention that the Earth goes through cycles. We have ice ages, we have periods of warm temperatures, and I think it's probably Occam's razor that it's a bit of both instead of all one or all the other.
I mean, A, yes, Earth does go through natural cycles, and B, we should be approaching an ice age. Like, it should be getting colder based on the natural cycles rather than warmer. So yeah, and also if you look at the carbon dioxide content, it's actually kind of crazy, like how much higher it's been than it ever has been. People are like, oh well, actually, if it gets warmer, carbon dioxide will naturally be released, right? Like if permafrost will release some, and there's other things where like, I think there's like less absorption of certain things, and like there is actually like an effect where like carbon can be released because of rising temperatures. And people are like, well, so clearly that is why there's more carbon. It's like, well, yeah, but also, if you look at all of our records, it's actually more carbon than there ever has been. Like, by multiple orders of magnitude. So, no, that's not it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny that the Industrial Revolution has put a ton of carbon into the atmosphere. Like, there's no way to doubt that. Like, you can't. Like, look at the buildings over the city skyline. Like, you know what smog is, right? That's carbon in the air. So, I don't know.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's also a thing where, I don't know if it's specifically in the smog, but rubber particles from tires are also like a thing.
Oh, that too. Brake dust, yeah. Well, brake dust is mostly carbon, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's maybe not just carbon emissions, but yeah, no, it's like smog is generally also bad, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we have enough to say about this to just like naturally pivot to making this topic, and also we talked about this before, I think. So let's go to the actual main topic. And I want to talk about police abolition and I guess prison abolition as well. Like those are like topics that some people are suggesting, and obviously, strictly speaking, like the abolition stuff is very much like a fringe position. But there's obviously a wide spectrum of like reforming and defunding and that sort of thing. So I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about. We did talk about decriminalization of drugs. Like, I mean, this was probably over a year ago, but I do remember us talking about it. And so this seems sort of like a natural follow-up to do to that. So I guess, first of all, just like top line thoughts. Like, what is your thoughts on like this topic in general? Like,
well, I think as far as America goes, that we imprison way too many of our citizens. I mean, we're obviously number one in the entire world. And man, I forgot the exact numbers, but it's a large amount of the population of imprisoned people on Earth are in America, by far more than any other. I think Russia may be second, if I remember right. But we tend to imprison our people for some of the slightest things that would never happen in other countries. I think there is a better way to go about it. I do think there are certain people who need to be imprisoned, of course, people that just can't live without murdering other people. Of course, they need to be locked up somewhere to keep them from hurting the general public. But then someone who was just smoking weed. I know we are getting much softer on that over the past few years, but throughout our history back to probably the early 1900s, maybe even before, don't remember exactly when it was outlawed, but smoking marijuana is not a reason to send someone to prison. That is a nonviolent crime. A lot of nonviolent crimes do not justify, I would say mostly all of them, maybe some financial crimes if it's bad enough, but mostly all nonviolent crimes should not justify prison time where you have a large chance of actually becoming violent while you're in prison. You're going to change that person's mental factors, and they're going to become violent even if they weren't before, because you have to be violent to survive in prison. Therefore, it's just a huge cycle, and we just keep repeating the cycle, and the prison population grows, along with things like the private prisons where people to make a profit of owning a prison, and then you get in touch with the lawmakers and things like that actually can make laws that make your prison population grow, and another cycle that just keeps feeding itself. And yeah, I think we do need prison reform by far. I think there are a lot of people that should not be in prison that are, and there are other models of other countries, especially in Europe, that we could follow. Make our society much more peaceful and also cut down on a lot of things. Well, I mean, I guess that's all encapsulated. If we make our society more peaceful, we won't need to put so many people in prison, right? But how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, while I was thinking about this topic as more of like a general thing, it is still very much inspired by the US, right? Like the question of like, why should someone have to go to prison, right? Like when do we send people to prison, I guess is the question, right? Like how long should we send people there, right? Like those sort of things are the obvious kind of questions that come up, right? Because obviously abolition in the strict sense doesn't work, right? I mean, maybe if you want to like do it on paper, it's like, oh, we have no more prisons, but we have a lot of more high security mental institutions. It's like, okay, sure, but it's like essentially the same thing. And so we obviously need some place to hold people, as you said, right? Like violent criminals that like don't even like there's not even like any doubt that they would reoffend if they had the possibility. I mean, obviously there are probably others that are not quite in the category that should still be in prison, but there's sort of, I think there's sort of two extremes that we look at, right? And it's on the one hand you have, like as you said, right, like an unrepentant murderer, right? Someone who's like, oh yeah, like I murdered those people and I will do it again, right? Obviously they have to go to prison, right? And then on the other hand, I guess we have loitering or something. And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you shouldn't go to prison for being somewhere where you wouldn't reasonably expect it to be at that time. Like what even is loitering? How's that a crime?
Felonious loitering.
So okay, yeah, I think loitering is not necessarily like a felony; it's probably more like a misdemeanor. But it's like a pretext to then do like to search them, and then you maybe like find some drugs, and then that is possession. And if it's over a certain amount, it's possession with intent to sell, and maybe someone doesn't literally go to jail for loitering, but you get my point, right? So there's clearly like this one person clearly shouldn't be going to jail. This other person clearly like we need jails for people like them, and so the real question becomes like, where is that point? And obviously, yes, recidivism is a huge issue, as you mentioned, right? If someone goes to prison, they're very likely to reoffend once they get out, and that doesn't mean we need to keep them there indefinitely. But maybe we should consider A, if we should put them there in the first place, and B, of like how the prisons function, and also how the society functions when it comes to ex-convicts, because of course they're going to reoffend if it's basically impossible to get a job once you have a conviction on your record, right? Like, how else are they supposed to make money? I mean, I get that there literally are jobs that they could probably get, but like, it's certainly harder. And so, you go to prison, you probably learn some new tricks, you might pick up a drug addiction, and you become harder to employ. Yeah. What are they going to do afterwards? And as I said,
it's college for criminals.
Yeah. And speaking of college, that actually is a good point, right? Because I'm not the point you were making exactly, but other countries, for example, have education programs. They have mental health counseling, right? Things that actually help people not reoffend, right? Because, as I said, right, if it's a lack of access to jobs that is part of the problems of why they reoffend, then helping them actually like get a degree behind bars, which programs like that exist even in the US, although like those sort of things are great because then they actually like have something. First of all, they have something to aspire to when they get out, and also they're much more employable afterwards, which makes it less likely they would reoffend. It depends on what kind of offenses we're talking about, and in some cases maybe they would just be better served by not imprisoning them in the first place, especially for like minor offenses like we talked about, right? Like drug possession or like public intoxication, loitering, right? Jaywalking. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing, though. Like you were saying, you can't really get arrested for loitering, right? It's just a ticket, but you can if you are a felon to begin with, because then if you break any law, you're going right back to prison. Jaywalking, loitering, whatever it is, they're going to send you back. So that is the way that it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just loitering is one of those where I think it's just pretense, right? It's pretense for search. It's pretense for locking up people that are on bail, right? It's like it's one of those loitering is only illegal because it then allows the police to like take control of the situation, like and do what as they wish, right? Like, again, to conduct searches, to like cut parole, like this sort of stuff. So like obviously, right? Like, that's just like, I don't know why it needs to be on the books in the first place, right?
Mhm.
There are other weird things, like resisting arrest is obvious. I mean, it makes sense why it would be illegal as a general matter. But it turns out in most US states, it's still illegal, even if the arrest itself was not legitimate. Right? So you're being illegally arrested, and you resist, and now you committed a crime. And so they can just like basically grab you, cuff you, and then if you resist, you're resisting arrest, and now they have a reason to lock you up. Like, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah,
obviously that should not be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, because your natural instinct, if you are innocent, would be to resist because, hey, I'm innocent. I shouldn't be arrested. Like that's your natural instinct to resist at that point.
I mean, there was obviously a story going through the news very recently about a deaf man who was being arrested and who was charged with resisting arrest because he didn't follow the orders of the officers, believe it or not, which might have had something to do with the fact that he couldn't hear them.
Exactly.
So, it's... Yeah, I mean, obviously that... And I mean, obviously, police abusing their powers is another aspect of this where that's obviously not great either.
Yeah.
But I do think there is some level where, of course, tweaking the laws in the first place, like, again, for example, resisting arrest, if the arrest stuff is not lawful, shouldn't be a crime, right? Like, loitering shouldn't be a crime, right? Those sort of things where, like, at least getting some of those things off the books and drug possession decriminalized, right? Sort of things where that at least makes it harder for them to arrest you, right? Like, I mean, obviously police reform is also necessary, prison reform is necessary, and I think sentencing reform in particular is very necessary because I do get the idea that you need a deterrent for crime, right? Like, obviously, you said, right, certain things are non-violent, right? And maybe drug possession is a bad example because you're not really, like, you're really not hurting anyone. You're not just not hurting anyone in particular, you're also, like, not really doing any, like, grand scale harm. But if we say, for example, like, check bouncing, right? Like writing bad checks. Like, I get why that is a crime, right? That's fraud. If you intentionally write a bad check, that's fraud. And that makes sense. And should you go to prison for that? It's a hard thing to say that you categorically should, but at the same time, like, we need some deterrent, right? So fines are obviously a good way to do that as well. I also think we should generally, like, think more about other forms of punishment, or that's also, by the way, the other thing, right? Like, the punitive attitude in the first place, right? Should every crime necessarily be punished, or should we maybe just, like, set up a system where it helps to make it so that people don't offend, right? Like use things like reparative justice, right? And that's the thing where it's like, maybe, again, I mean, I guess fines in some ways are reparative justice, where it's like, if you financially hurt someone, you pay them to compensate for the damage. And so, I mean, maybe there are things that we could do besides prison, right? Community service comes to mind as like a thing that is sort of another crime, because the problem with fines is always, if someone can't afford to pay the fine, what happens then? And in the current system, what happens for the most part is you get put in prison. And if we use fines instead of prison time for sentences, that really only helps out the people that are already more affluent. I mean, not necessarily rich, just like doing fine, oftentimes, depending on how high the fine is, but doing fine, the fine, anyways. So it still is effectively a prison time for poor people, so you need some way to sort of have there be a consequence for criminal conduct, while at the same time maybe not putting everyone in jail just because they broke a law. And so I think community service is, for example, a great thing where you can do that. Where, there's still a consequence, it still costs you some of your time, but you're also not being put behind bars, right? It's a whole thing about, like, easy access to drugs, connection to other criminals, possible, like, becoming the victim of violence or having to perpetrate violence to prevent yourself from becoming the victim of violence, right? Like, all of those sort of things that you said about prison don't really apply if you do community service. I mean, house arrest also comes to mind, but it's also really, it feels like it's more of a rich people thing as well, where, like, oh, if you're rich and you're, like, in pretrial detention, they'll put you under house arrest, right? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's not really that helpful, especially because you want people to, I mean, I guess you want to be able to have people keep their jobs, which they can, because house arrest usually, like, has accommodations for that. But it's like, being like, you can't have a social life, is probably not going to be great for people either in the long term. And so I think community service comes to mind as like sort of the only thing that I can think of that is like currently done besides fines that probably makes more sense for certain things, right? Like if I was gonna say like if they get you for littering, which I mean probably shouldn't be more than a fine to begin with, but then like being like, hey, you have to pick up the trash now. It's like okay, that seems like a reasonable consequence, right?
Yeah.
I mean obviously I can't come up with like a fitting thing for everything, but also I do think some form of education makes sense to some degrees, right? We have mental health counseling for people that committed crimes because they have mental issues. I think certain things like, hey, if you commit traffic infractions, you have to take like a driving course or something before you can get your license back.
We do.
Which actually is something that that we do over here as well. If you lose your license, you usually have to take a test to get your license back. So those are things where we just have to make sure that at least now that if you're doing it again, we know that you basically wantonly did it, right? Because you should have known better, and we make sure that you do know better now. So at least, because sometimes people also like break laws just because they just don't know any better, right? Like, especially traffic laws, because they're like extensive and complicated, and maybe some minor infractions shouldn't be that big of a deal to begin with, but like some education can also in some cases help, and I think generally we should consider those possibilities instead of just everything being prison or fines. Although again, fines for especially financial crimes do make a lot of sense.
You just reminded me that I took those classes, the driving classes, 3 separate times because I was a wild driver in my younger days. Yes, I lost my license at one point in time and had to work to get them back. Along with paying a lot of fines, I had to do community service. I had to take those defensive driving courses and do all the tests all over again. It was a big ordeal, but I just like to drive fast, and that's what I did. And, but I was thinking the community service thing, right? What if there is a separate program to where you actually give them a job? Because if you go to prison, you're going to lose your job anyway. So we can't really worry about them losing their jobs at that point. But we give them a separate job to where they're making half the money. And this is for financial crimes, by the way, to where you're making half the money and the other half goes back to pay the victim of their financial crime. And they could work to pay it off. And, it doesn't have to be like you know what? We used to have this thing under the Roosevelt era called the CCCs. I think it stood for Civilian Conservation Camps, not to be confused with concentration camps, but yeah, so they would they would take the kids as soon as you turned 18 and throw them in like a military style outfit to where they would be doing community service and working on public grounds and whatnot. My grandfather actually did it. Jesus, I don't even know what years those would have been. I guess it was in the 40s because it was during World War II. So they worked on Roosevelt's house because that was here in Georgia, and built parks and things like that. So I think that would be a good idea, is that criminals of financial crimes, you throw them in this program and let them work off their payment to society.
I mean, yes, I do think that's probably a good way to deal with fines in general, for example, where like you can work them off rather than then either you pay a fine or you go to jail. Obviously, if financial crimes is sort of a wide spectrum, right? If we're talking about like certain like small criminals running bad checks, that's maybe a solution. Whereas if we're talking about like international bankers like embezzling money, it's like, I mean, first step, like you probably have a lot of money, so the concern of you needing to pay the fine is less pronounced, and weirdly enough, they might not even lose their jobs over it. So you can have, and also for people that already have a job, right? If you owe money, then obviously taking some out of your paycheck is already like a thing. There's a term for it, I forget, but like there's already a thing for like for paying fines and for paying damages awards off of your income, so that there's already a system for that. I'm not sure if that strictly speaking applies to fines. I know that it's definitely to civil penalties, but yeah, no, those things obviously I think are good solutions, and I think I guess again, right, I think for prison reform, I think the big thing would be programs, right? Like I said, right, like education programs, access to mental health services, right? Those sort of things where access to I was gonna say drug treatments. What is the word I'm looking for? Like
Rehab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because obviously, again, right, someone shouldn't go to jail just for being addicted to drugs in the first place, but a lot of people also do crimes and are addicted to drugs, and there's like a correlation there, right? Like say you're addicted to drugs and you don't have any money, then you might commit crimes to get money for drugs, right? So
absolutely.
So actually rehabbing people is like one thing that is like really valuable. Again, making sure that like a lot of people turn to crime after like dropping out of education. So making sure that they can finish education in prison helps reduce the rate of reoffending. And of course, the incentive structures also need to be changed to some degree because while private prisons, I think, are actually not as big a part of the US carceral system as people think, there's still a problem, right? Because if you have a private prison and you have a contract with like a city or a state that they need to fill a certain amount of beds there, then obviously that is going to lead to problems. And I mean, usually, it's not strictly speaking they have to send that many people there. It's usually they have to pay for a minimum number of inmates whether or not they actually fill them. But it's really this sort of idea, like, might as well not have it go to waste, right? But also stupid mindset, of course, but hey, maybe all prisons should be run by the state, right? Whether that be actual like states or the federal government, but like, like maybe prisons shouldn't be private. And also, much more dangerous in some ways is that it's not just the prisons themselves that are privatized. There's oftentimes services within those prisons as well, right? Prisons with private healthcare providers have worse patient outcomes and generally like less attention paid to inmates with problems than ones that are just having the services provided by the prison itself, right? That are with public funding. And right, if someone's health gets worse because they're in prison, then it also makes it harder for them to get a job in the future, right? So that's also not great. So I think all of those things where I think seeing prison less as just like, you're a bad person, you should be punished, therefore we're going to stick you in prison. And then because everyone in prison is a bad person, therefore we don't really need to care how much, we don't need to care much how they're treated. Instead, we treat it more as like, we need a deterrent for some crimes, especially. And we need a way to deal with people that are like actively dangerous. And you focus more on rehabilitating criminals rather than punishing them. Then I think that like attitudinal shift could then also be used to then look into what you can do, because like US prisons are kind of terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
sure there's worse than Russia, but yeah.
I'm not saying the prison should be in such a way that I want to go there, but obviously it's always a stereotype, right? Like if you look at the Scandinavian prisons and I mean even German prisons, right? Like they're like they're just like bad hotels, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And like that is,
and the recidivism rate is very low.
Yeah, and those two things, believe it or not, are not a coincidence. Those relate. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love looking at the videos of the Denmark prisons, It's like, man, I would actually pay to go there. Give me a spot, man. I like that. But, you were talking about the healthcare in the system too, though. I've actually known of people, not personally, but I've known stories of people who could not afford healthcare. And, they end up with some sort of disease that they can't take care of themselves because we have to pay for our own healthcare, obviously. So they will actually find a way to get into prison to get free healthcare. And that's an issue also, because you don't want the people wanting to go to prison, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is less of a prison issue, but yeah, no, obviously it still is very much like the US is kind of a fucked up country, What is the thing? Socialized healthcare is such a difficult problem that only 31 of 32 industrial nations ever managed to crack it, right? It's like, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Well, that's what they'll sell you on for sure. That, look at all these other countries that have it. Like, yeah, you mean all of them, right? Yeah, yeah. Well, look at how bad their healthcare system are, and all the best doctors come here so they can get paid. So we have all the best doctors. Why would you want to go wait in a waiting list for 1,000 years trying to get your liver transplant and whatnot? Well, guess what? We also have waiting lists here. Even though we pay for our own healthcare, you still have to get on a waiting list if you need an organ transplant. There's no doubt about that. I understand that some countries, we've been through the healthcare thing. All right, I won't keep harping on the healthcare thing,
I also
but
think,
yeah,
the whole like having the best doctors is not entirely true, and also I was looking at a list like a while back, and it was like the top 500 or something. I think it might have been a special discipline, like a specific discipline, like something like the top 500 heart surgeons in the world or something. And there was like, I think 5 times as many Americans and Germans on the list. And that sounds like something. And then the US is 4 times the population of Germany, and then it's like, okay, that's like 25% more. Like, that still is more, but it's not a huge difference. And also, if you, Joe Schmo, are going to go to a hospital, you're probably not going to get a world-class heart surgeon in your surgery, right? That's exactly. Still just rich people shit, right? Like, private hospitals, like it doesn't matter whether your healthcare is socialized or not. Like, that's not for, like, the average citizen, right? Like, all those best doctors are either, like, at universities, which, I mean, university hospitals are still a thing, but, like, or they're at, like, private clinics that you are never going to be able to afford. And so the whole argument against socialized healthcare is terrible. I mean, I really would want the American system. I mean, the German system isn't perfect either. I mean, it's like, it's weird as a German because, like, the German system is actually, like, one of the worst ones in Europe, I think. But compared to the American system, it's way better.
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, I don't know how many times I've contemplated moving just to get under a socialized healthcare system. Americans are afraid of that word socialism, though. They're so afraid of it. It's one step away from communism, and communism has been the enemy. I mean, we've been taught that since we were born, is that socialism and communism, that's the enemy of freedom, right? So you say the word socialized healthcare, and immediately they're like, no, we're not having that.
Okay, here's the thing, right? How about we make like a patriot healthcare system where we're all being very patriotic and we're paying money in so that all of the Americans can get healthcare.
That's how you do it. I mean, that would be the greatest way to go about it, right? But unfortunately, the very rich doctors and insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies have lobbyists that keep these laws from happening, or keep these structures from happening, so that they can keep their money.
Yeah. I mean, the American healthcare system is pretty fucked up. And the American political system as well. I mean, that applies both to the healthcare and to the prison stuff, right? Where, like, hey, it turns out that the people that are monetarily profiting from how fucked up those systems are also the people that can afford to lobby politicians to keep the systems just as they are. Huh, weird how that works.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it's... I mean, that is, at the end of the day, that is the big challenge in, like, actually implementing any of these changes, right? You have to either have your own lobbying influence, which, like, or you need to get politicians that aren't bought, right? You need to change laws around lobbying. You need to change campaign finance laws, right? And it's a whole thing. And there are maybe things that don't seem like the biggest priority, right? Like, oh yeah, why do I care that rich people can donate money to political campaigns? It's like, yeah, but, like, all the other problems are downstream from that, right? If you fix campaign finance law, then I'm not going to say that everything else automatically fixes itself, but at least then it becomes more possible to fix the other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, that's always... I feel like that's the thing we always come to at the end of the day when we talk about, like, some issue in the US where it's like, well, actually, first of all, we need to fix lobbying. It's like, oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It always comes back to that.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, always. Always, as long as they're rich people that can buy lobbyists and they allow the lobbyists to influence our political system, then... And until we fix that, it's never going to fix the problem. Got to get to the root of the problem.
Anything else we want to say about prison reform? I feel like we've moved a little bit away from
we're a long way from prison reform at this point, but no, I think that's good.
Well, then, what is your fact of the week?
Oh, let me bring it up here. Let's see what my fact of the week is. Oh, man, I found this interesting, and I wouldn't doubt that you guys probably had this on your podcast at some point in time because I had heard this a long time ago, but then I came across it today, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to bring that up and see what you know about it. The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. It was apparently chosen because of its connection with the dominance and chivalry, as well as purity and innocence in Celtic mythology. Now, first question is, why would you have a national animal that doesn't exist?
I know,
and are they the only one? Yeah.
The Welsh national animal is a dragon! So much cooler than the unicorn.
I mean, yeah, I guess, you could say, like, that really represents our spirit or whatever, but I don't know. I just thought it was weird that you choose an animal that does not exist. Now I'm going to look up what countries have national animals
also,
that don't
the Welsh
exist.
aren't exactly being subtle about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Their flag has a huge red dragon.
Yeah.
Unlike Scotland, where I think it is on the national emblem or something, but it's not on the flag at least. I say at least, like it's a good thing. Also, I think the official UK coat of arms, it has. There we go. And the coat of arms of the UK has a lion representing England and a unicorn representing Scotland.
Yeah.
And actually, the version on the right also has their country flags. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, there's unicorn on the UK coat of arms because it's a national animal of Scotland.
Oh, actually, Hungary is another one with a mythical animal. The legend. I don't even know what mythical animal that is. Oh, it's a bird. The turul, Turul, mythical bird of prey. Often in the form of a giant falcon.
Okay, yeah. Based on a large falcon.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, eagles in particular are very popular as animals. I think eagles and lions are usually like the two main ones that you see a lot on coast farms and whatnot. I think
that's our eagle. Yeah,
eagle is probably the most common because like a lot of European countries also have eagles. I think it comes from the Prussian tradition. So you have a lot of like Albania has like a two-headed eagle. Germany has an eagle. I think Russia might also have an eagle. I'm not entirely sure about that one, but yeah, no, there's like a lot of like, especially like Eastern and Central Europe. There's a lot of eagles making their own there as well.
Oh, that feels weird. If you told Americans, like, the eagle also represents Russia, right? No, eagle represents freedom, and they're communists.
I don't know about Russia specifically. That was just a guess, but it definitely, I know the Albanian flag has like a two-headed eagle. National symbols of Russia: official name, national flag, national emblem, national anthem, de facto national fauna, national animal. Okay, no, it's actually the brown bear. That makes sense. The de facto national bird is the golden eagle. The de facto national bird. Oh god, I love the whole like our country has an official everything. But the coat of arms does also have a two-headed eagle.
Oh yeah.
Which was kind of my point. So there's a lot of eagles going around. I don't know if they're like always the official animal necessarily, but yeah, especially on like coats of arms, tons of eagles, tons of lions. It's basically all eagles and lions, depending on where you go.
Yeah. Powerful.
Did I mention the brown bear? Well, my fact of the week is about a bear, a tiger, and a lion, and their friends. Which I mean, I guess that's a fact. In 2001. When a drug dealer's house got raided in Atlanta, Georgia, when the police searched the basement, they found frightened and malnourished cubs that were infected with parasites of, a black bear, a Bengal tiger, and an African lion. They were taken.
Was this Big Meech, by the way?
What
was it, Demetrius? Forgot his last name.
The drug dealer?
The drug dealer, yeah.
It doesn't say in here.
Maybe that was more like 2005.
Yeah, it really doesn't specify in either of the articles I have here. But yeah, a drug dealer's house was raided in 2001, and they found the 3 animals in there. They were taken to an animal sanctuary, and apparently it's not unusual for animals to stick together, like in these sort of situations where like they were found in traumatic circumstances. It's basically trauma bonding. But what is unusual about these cases is that they stayed close friends throughout their entire lives. And so normally when they're all male, and obviously they're all predators, so normally when they reach a sexual majority, they would become less friendly, especially with other species. And in this case, those 3 actually stay together pretty much all their lives. Well, at least the life of the lion and the tiger, because obviously the bear lived longer. But yeah, no, they were in Noah's Ark Animal Sanctuary in Locust Grove, Georgia, and they lived together. They had them together, and they always stuck together. They groomed each other, and they were like, okay, I guess if they're friends, then we're just going to keep them together. And so they kept them together for their whole lives, basically.
Now that you bring that up, yeah, I feel like I've actually heard that story before. I know where that animal sanctuary is. It's probably 20, 30 minutes from here.
Also, the other thing that I also mentioned out of the article, they're apparently also referred to as BLT, which is a sandwich, but also bear, lion, and tiger. So, that's just like a twist. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say I've seen the videos of them 3 before.
Yeah, it's very possible. And I guess that probably already brings us to the halftime show. We're doing Hurdle Decades, and apparently 1950s has been updated.
Oh.
Whatever that means. So we're doing the decades, and we're starting with the 50s.
Ooh, sounds like Johnny Cash. Not enough notes to know for sure, but it sounds like Tennessee Tubes get.
If you want to guess Johnny Cash, there are options.
Let's see. It's not Big River. That's a rockabilly. Get Rhythm is rockabilly. Cry, Cry, Cry. Definitely not Walk the Line.
I was gonna say,
Home with the Blues.
Walk the Line. I know. I wouldn't have thought it's it, but at the same time, going off of 2 notes is a bit hard sometimes.
Definitely not Folsom Prison Blues. I know that song. Every note. Give My Love to Rose. No, I don't think. Maybe. If it is one of Johnny Cash's, then I would say Give My Love to Rose. It kind of starts off like that.
I mean, we could try it. It's probably going to be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I do know that riff. I feel like, I've heard that before.
It reminds me of The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. I don't know if that is it, but that's where my mind goes. I don't know if there is...
Yeah.
The version I know is newer, but also that is definitely a cover, almost certainly. So,
Do they have it?
No, they do not.
Nah.
I mean, it wouldn't be... Especially back then, they wouldn't have... Yeah, no. I mean, again, that's just where my mind went. I didn't think it was necessarily right, but... it's one of those things where, if you don't say it and it ends up being right, you're going to be very annoyed.
Yeah.
So I just have to... do you want to try out anything else, Johnny Cash, or do you have someone else in mind? I mean... Doesn't seem that...
I know all of the songs on there. Try Chain of Love.
The worst part is, Wait, let me see if yeah, this is just straight up the maximum amount I can display at once, so there might literally be more Johnny Cash songs on the list. But there's no way for me to give you page 2 of Johnny Cash because there's no scrolling in here, so it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do. What do you say it was?
Train of Love. Train of Love, I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing yet until we get some vocals.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna skip.
I felt it was gonna start.
It's literally the same
there.
note over and over again at a pretty consistent pacing. It's like, and there was some like background shuffling noises, but like I don't know.
Yeah,
that doesn't help me.
Oh, I mean the recording equipment of the day wasn't that great, and they would all perform, individually, or I mean, as a entire group when they would record back then. Whereas later on with 8-track recording and whatnot, you would do each instrument individually, but I'll just stand in a room and play. So that's why you get a lot of background noise in those old recordings. Yeah,
but in theory, I really like the whole like recorded as live idea more so than the modern thing where it's like it feels artificial the way they do it nowadays. I mean, obviously, like the end result is still good usually, but it just it just seems like it would be more natural to just like have the band play and just record it. I mean, I get like why that is trickier with background noise and whatnot, but I don't know. Maybe that's just
Yeah.
Doesn't help us answer the question
of a little more
who or what this is.
Not at all.
Got no bags and baggage to slow me
down. Traveling light. That's Traveling Light. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the singer, but it's Traveling Light.
Richard and the Shadows.
Yeah, that's it. Cliff Richard.
That is it indeed.
Yeah. I knew I had heard that riff before.
I don't think they changed these ones, but I think the 60s and 70s do have new images. Not that it matters. But yeah, let's do the 60s.
No.
Yeah, no, I guess.
That sound kind of weird, but no, nothing yet. Need some vocals. Can't place it.
I mean, we still don't have any vocals, but it does quite a bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, I got nothing.
Again, it sounds familiar, but me either.
I mean, it sounds familiar in the sense that they might have played it at some point in the background of a movie at one point, but like, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I know it. This just feels like mood-setting music, right? They're like, well, this flashback scene takes place in the 60s, so we put this song on like a gramophone somewhere in the background. It's like, okay, that's nice and all, but like, doesn't mean I know who it is.
Exactly. On. Give me a little more of that. I mean, well, that's our last skip. Okay, let's do that.
All day I'm walking in a dream. I think about you.
That's the same guy. It's a different song, but that's the same guy we just covered. That Traveling Light guy.
Cliff Richard. We got... Oh, I mean, again, I think this is hitting the limit on how many we can have.
Yeah. Why would they put him in there twice? Unless I'm wrong, but that sounds exactly like him.
Yeah. What was this thing about it? Something about a dream? No, that doesn't help. We can listen to it again to see if there's any hints of which ones those it will most likely be, but I don't really see anything that immediately jumps out at me.
Yeah.
I mean, got any idea, or should I just pick one?
Maybe you trying to think if I even know. I know a couple of those songs. But no, I couldn't tell you which one this is. Maybe just pick one and hope it's the right one.
Was Constantly by Cliff Richard. So,
I
I picked the wrong one, but you did get the right artist.
Yeah, I knew that was him. They put him in there twice. That's pretty sneaky.
So, now the real question is, was he still active in the 70s?
He may be.
Yeah, we got two. Just,
That's crazy if it's him again.
Let's listen to it, and if we don't have any idea, maybe we'll just pick one of those two songs. I mean, it sure sounds like it could still be him.
It kind of does. This is a female singer.
Okay.
I believe. Actually, can you play a little more?
A little more, okay.
Oh, I was hoping the vocals would kick in.
I was like,
this is
half expecting something to come up where it's like rap or like metal or something. It's like, is it clearly not Cliff Richard? And it's like, well, I mean, I did say if we didn't know, we're going to guess it. It's like, okay, yeah, obviously it's not him.
Yeah.
But this is close enough that it would have been believable.
Dang it. Play a little more.
I'd like to build.
Yes, you know this song, right?
I don't think I do.
If I could teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Oh, yeah, I have heard that before. That's from the 70s?
Yeah,
I thought it was older.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I would have guessed the 60s, but I guess it is the 70s.
Well, I mean, I might need a title or an artist. I mean, we can guess title based on the lyrics if you don't have any idea, but...
Yeah, try it. Just look up Teach the World to Sing.
Teach the... I'd like to teach the world to sing by the New Seekers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 80s, there we go. So many different 80s ones.
Ooh, we got some R&B now.
Oh, that's what that is.
Don't know it.
Yeah, I guess it could be. My first thought when I heard the sound, I was like, oh, maybe like a ballad or something, but...
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like R&B so far, at least, unless a hard-hitting beat's gonna kick in somewhere.
Yeah, I'm assuming you still got nothing?
Nah. It's not Whitney Houston, is it?
I mean, I think time-wise it could be, but music-wise I have no idea. I think that's at least all of the songs of hers in that decade that are in this system. It's not How Will I Know.
Nah.
And it's not I Want to Dance with Somebody. The other ones I'm not familiar enough with to immediately tell you one way or the other.
Yeah, I know 3 of them, I believe. So it's not any of those. I don't know, unless
well, I was happy that I knew too.
Let's see, which ones do I not know? Greatest Love of All, I don't know that one. So Emotional, I don't know that one. So we could take a chance on one of those, I guess.
I guess let's take it from the top, and then we'll have some more to listen to. Unless it's right, of course, but...
Ooh. That's the problem with R&B is the vocals don't kick in until a long intro is over.
Guess another Whitney Houston song, or do you have a better idea?
Yeah.
Type letters in correct order as well.
Let's try that.
Would help. So what's the next one you said? Grace of All? Is that the next one?
Yeah.
That was incorrect as well. Who would have guessed?
No. Same thing, yeah. Need some vocals. I maybe could figure it out once I hear vocals.
Well, I still prefer guessing something over not doing the whoops, no space bar at the end there. That seems to fuck things up. Okay. What is next?
Didn't we all?
Or didn't we almost have it all? Is that?
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Oh. Oh, that's not Whitney. That's Donna Summer. I don't know the song, but I know the voice.
Well, I know the name, but I don't know any of the 4 songs that are listed here, so...
Yeah. I know this time it's not for... I know that one. She works hard for the money. I know that one. Unconditional. It's either on the radio or... Do I know Unconditional Love? Maybe not. It's one of those two. It's either... yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That is the one song first I would know, but that wasn't even in here. I guess it's the wrong decade.
Yeah. But yeah, it's on the radio or Unconditional Love.
Well, I guess it's like on the radio. I don't know. It was on the radio!
Yeah!
Hey,
yeah.
Sometimes you have to get a 50-50 right, you know? On average, you would expect about half the time, but sometimes it feels like it's a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
All right, 90s. I swear to God, last time we played Hurdle, we had something that started exactly like this.
Yeah.
It was either in the 90s or the 2000s or something. Like, yeah, no, that's just like the most basic thing you can do with the drums.
Yeah, exactly. 3 generic drum beats are not going to give it away.
Yeah, it's just
not yet.
Some of the most generic drumming I've ever heard, yeah.
When I first saw...
Oh, that voice sounds familiar.
Well, that's great, because I ain't got nothing, so...
Play a little more of it.
A little more coming, right? Fucking hell. Have to hit the button as well.
When I first saw you.
Oh, yeah. What's that lady's name? It's the Canadian lady that started off in country and then went pop in the 90s. Oh my God, what was her name? Oh, man, if I could...
I don't know if she's Canadian, but I'm thinking of someone, but I'm also not coming up with her name, which is really frustrating right now.
Yeah. She was like a model almost. Like she was like one of the hottest women alive at the time.
Well,
she had the mole on her face. Well, that's what they labeled her as.
Okay, fair enough. You know, I'm just saying, right? Like if you say like, oh yeah, she was really hot, I'm like, that doesn't necessarily help me. Like, most pop stars are reasonably attractive, and beyond that, it's very subjective.
Yeah.
So when you say country and pop,
she's the one that did
Shania Twain, but
yes, that's it. Yes.
I was thinking about her the whole time, but Shania Twain. You're Still the One, Man, I Feel Like a Woman, and It Don't Impress Me Much.
Yeah. Because I was going to say she was the one that did Feel Like a Woman. This is You're Still the One.
Yeah, because the song that I associate with her would have been That Don't Depress Me Much, but
Yeah,
that was correct.
that's it.
You're still the
Well,
one.
we're doing it today.
Yeah, man, you're really good at this. I'm not, and we're already past most of the music that I like, so it's probably not gonna get any better.
Are you ready?
Well, that's definitely not music I like.
That's what I listened to in high school right here. This was actually, no, I would say it's on the radio. I was digging a little deeper and going for more hardcore hip hop at the time. But no, this is the girl from the Black Eyed Peas with Ludacris.
Yeah,
Fergie.
Yeah, I like Fergie. I would have gotten eventually because what do you say? Fergie and Lucas, Glamorous.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yep. No, I mean the girl from the Black Eyed Peas would have been enough for me to get Fergie eventually, but it would have taken a second.
Yeah.
Okay, 2010s.
I'm trying to pretend.
At least we have vocals from the get-go.
Yeah.
Not that I can tell you what it is.
Like it sounds like CNC Music Factory from the 80s, not the 2010s.
I mean, it could always be a sample, of course.
Yeah, it could be. They were the ones that did Everybody Dance Now.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, but seriously doubt it's them unless it is a sample.
I mean, if you really, what was it? CNC as like a cutting machine?
Yeah, or like C and C.
Oh, like an ampersand.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, was unlikely to be them to begin with, but yeah.
Yeah, seriously doubt it.
So yeah, I guess we'll listen to more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pretend it isn't true.
No.
I mean, I can always, pretend. True. Okay, True Colors. That's older. Also different artists, but yeah. Anyways, what not true isn't true. What did she say? Isn't true. I think she said. Isn't. That's not how I spell it. Yeah, no. There's nothing from the lyrics, but that would have been a stretch to begin with. Because especially in 2010s, you don't put your title in the beginning.
Usually not.
That's like a 50s or 60s thing. Like, sometimes you literally type in the first 3 words from the song and it's just the title.
Oh, yeah.
But lately they've been putting it in the chorus for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to pretend it isn't true. But if...
No, I've never heard this song, I don't believe.
That's great, because
I'm
me neither.
trying to pretend it isn't true. But even when I run, it's like I can't get over you, over you.
Well, I mean, I now know what I should probably type in here. How about Over You?
No, Over You.
Forever Young, that's also older. Yeah, no, there's actually...
Oh, that was that remake.
Yeah, so this is... No, okay, so there's nothing that has Over You specifically in the title.
Nah. I'm lost on this one.
Well...
I'm trying to pretend it isn't true. But even when I run, it's like I can't get over you, over you. Over you, over you. Every
Yeah, I got nothing.
Mm.
You know, every time when we go through these, and we click on 2010s, I want to say last but not least, but then I remember it very possibly could be least.
Yeah.
So, not my kind of music, I think.
Nah, I don't know.
Giant in My Heart by Kisa?
Kisa? Never heard that one before.
Keisha? Maybe? If it's...
Kesha?
No, it's not
I don't
Kesha.
think that's Kesha.
No. No, I'm just like... SZ. If it's like Serbian or Polish or something, it won't make a sh sound.
Yeah.
But also like huh?
Yep. Got me on that one.
Kisa Ray Elstead, known professionally as Kisa, is a Canadian singer and multi-instrumentalist from Calgary. Okay.
I gotta see what she looks like here. It's Kei.
Kiesa.
Huh.
Apparently her first album came out in 2014. So
Wow, she looks like she's from the 80s, though. Oh, maybe that's she sounded like. She looks like she's going for an 80s thing. She's got the 80s hairstyle, the 80s clothes on. That may just be her thing. She does like a throwback sound. Well, she was born in the 80s, so...
Yeah, I was gonna say, right? She was
That's
like
it.
ever so barely born in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's not like she'd remember the 80s, but yeah,
Yeah. It's new to me.
Well, I guess that brings us to our second topic. To close it out, we have Would You Rather have a brain freeze every time you drink or have a toothache every time you eat? I swear to God we've done that question before, haven't we?
I think we may have, actually.
I mean, I think the answer is toothache every time you eat because you don't eat as often as you drink.
Yeah, that's true, but toothache, how long it lasts. Like, brain freeze goes away after a few seconds.
Fair.
But if you mean like every single sip,
Yeah,
that would be horrible.
Like, what I was gonna say, right? Like, I probably like drank something like 5 times already just while we were recording, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I drink a lot of water, you know.
Yeah.
I could lay off the cookies occasionally. I probably should anyway. So, you know, that's... You know, you have like 2 or 3 meals a day. Take a sip like
you could always
every
cut down to
5
one.
minutes. I don't know, like that's...
You can always cut down to 1 meal a day if it's that bad.
Yeah, I think toothache is probably the right answer here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 79 to 21. So I was definitely the minority there.
Yeah.
This also feels familiar. Stub your toe once every day or whack your funny bone every other day.
Oh, I'll take the funny bone every other day.
I was thinking that take the
That's
stub toe.
pretty
I mean,
easy.
I guess it depends on how hard you stub it, right, as well. Like, funny bone is, like, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also, as you said, right, it goes away pretty quickly as well. But I feel like most of the time when I stub my toe, it also goes away pretty quickly. And it seems less bad.
Mhm.
I mean, it's obviously twice as often, but...
I've done ones where it's just black and blue afterwards, you know? So, I've had some pretty bad stub toes before.
I mean, I guess it's always a question, right? It's always a matter of degrees, right? Like, how bad is each one of those specifically? Because most of the time my stub toes weren't that bad. So I'd probably pick those, but I could really see that
Yeah, I was looking at them.
going either way.
If they're both equivalent, I'll take the every other day.
I mean, right, like, at that point it's just a math problem.
Yeah.
I guess the question I was thinking about is, like, is the funny bone, like, is that twice as bad as a stub toe? And based on just my personal experiences, I would say that it might just be. So I was going to go with the toe, but...
Either one.
Yeah,
You pick the toe, I would pick the funny bone.
I'll pick the toe, and let's see. It's 39-61. I'm once again in the minority. Jesus. Would you rather always overspice your food or always have your food taste bland?
I would take the bland. Like, I know that's such a white thing to say, but overspicing, like, if you get your food too salty or just way too much, you don't want to eat it anymore. Like, you can eat bland food and be...
It's also like how do we judge this, right? Like, what makes it overly spicy? What makes it bland, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would probably intuitively go with overly spicy. Because if it's like a consistent level of overly spicy, you just get used to it.
True, but
I guess bland
also
you could
you
also
get used to
get more used to, but
yeah.
but
But like if it's too salty, like I don't know that you could ever go over something being too salty.
I like salt. I've literally eaten pure salt before. I mean, you really shouldn't. It's bad for your sodium levels, believe it or not.
Oh, salt actually. I don't know. I was listening to Dr. Drew recently, and he was giving this thing about salt is your friend, and sugar is the enemy. And you should always salt your diet much more.
There are recommended levels of salt. It's one of those things, right? It's like Paracelsus said, right? The amount makes the poison. Like too much salt, and you can literally die. I mean, it mostly happens to children. Like adults usually don't die from too much salt, but like you could like seriously like fuck yourself up. But also like not enough salt is also bad.
Well, he did add that you have to be properly hydrated also for the salt. Like, you don't want to just salt everything and not drink water. You will die.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of like actually like hot, I used to eat a lot of hot food for a while, and there came a point where sometimes like we would eat something and my mom would be like, "Oh my god, isn't this really hot?" And I'm like, it literally tastes like it's not hot at all.
Oh yeah.
Like not like it's not that bad, but like I literally couldn't taste it anymore because it was just so mild comparatively. So like you definitely get used to some of those things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so that's where my mind immediately went, right? Where like if I'm thinking too spicy, it's like I wasn't thinking salty, I was thinking hot. I mean, both obviously are valid forms of spicing. So I was like, I'll just get used to it. And
yeah, maybe so.
And again, right, like the capsaicin response for me was so bad that like if it was just a little, I literally wouldn't even taste it anymore. So it's not even like it overpowers the other tastes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess
that's true.
Bland is sort of the safe pick, I guess, because it's not very fun, but there's no harm, no foul, right? So it's like,
yeah.
You know what? Sure.
Yeah, because I mean,
if it's overly spicy by your own subjective standards, then it'll just keep getting spicier, and at some point, it's probably going to be unhealthy. So I guess let's pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's pick.
Is because once you get used to it, and you're like, okay, this is not overly spicy anymore. You have to put more because it always has to be overly spiced.
Yeah, that's the question, right? What I was asking: is it overly spicy by your own personal standard? Or is it overly spicy by like average society or something? It's like, oh yeah, it's just very spicy for where you live. It's like, oh yeah, very spicy for where I live is like mild over in Asia.
Yeah.
Right, so let's pick bland, and we went at 30%. 70% is spicy. So once again, in the minority. I low-key just want to keep doing this until we just happen to do it in a majority, because we're sure we'll do it eventually. Would you rather always have a random taste in your mouth or be unable to have taste in your mouth? That's a similar question.
Yeah. I'm definitely taking the random taste. Like, I hope it's nothing nasty, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, random taste surely would also include a lot of very unpleasant things. Like, I don't know, soap.
Yeah. But
actually,
are we saying you won't... But we're saying you won't be able to taste anything, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's people that live like that, right? Like, you can lose a sense of taste, right? That's just, like, a thing.
Yeah, some people do, but I wouldn't want to.
I mean, yeah, sure, but, like, always having a random taste in your mouth is probably gonna be... I mean, you probably get somewhat used to it, but again, if it was only ever, like, within the range of food that I would normally consume, like, oh, sometimes it's sweet, sometimes it's spicy, like, sure, fine. But, like, sometimes it tastes like good old shit, sometimes it tastes like soap. It's like, no. Like, no, thank you.
Okay, no. Yeah, if we're going to those extremes, I'd say no, but...
I mean, random as far as I'm concerned is just like, random. That, I mean, maybe it doesn't go...
that you eventually have to get everything.
Like, I don't know how extreme you want to go with this, but, like, certainly there are, like 6 different taste receptor types on your tongue, and we're certainly going to figure all of them at some point.
Yeah.
And not all of them are pleasant. I would go with unable to taste. Weirdly enough, I'm more confident on this choice than on the previous one.
I guess I'll take unable.
Yeah, I also don't like having some stuff just really don't like when I still have the taste in your mouth after a while. Like it's been a while since you've eaten your meal, you still have like a little bit of taste in your mouth, and it's like and someone's like, just go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
66 random, 34 unable.
And the minority.
I guess for another one, would you rather be a doctor or rather be a lawyer?
Oh my! You're gonna make a lot of money either way.
I mean, yeah.
Lawyers are generally hated, and doctors are generally loved.
That's a bit of an overgeneralization, maybe, but yeah, no, I mean, sure.
I mean, you love a lawyer when you're in trouble and you need one, but if you're being sued, you hate a lawyer.
Yeah.
But the doctor, he could be sued by the lawyer at some point. If you're a lawyer,
both
though,
of
you
them
don't
can be
have
sued
to
for
worry
malpractice
about.
if they do a bad job.
Yeah, that's true. But being a lawyer, you will know how to fight it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, first of all, both professions actually like have a large range of things that they do. Maybe not like on an individual basis, but like, like a doctor, right? It goes from like a veterinarian to a brain surgeon, right? Like there's like a big range.
yeah. Yeah.
And lawyer, right? You have, I mean, your stereotypes is more like your personal injury lawyers or something like that, right? Like the so-called ambulance chasers, to like the high-powered law firm defending like some corporate asshole against like obviously dubious shit. But there's also public defenders, for example, which aren't that well paid, but at least that one is like ethically very much in the clear. But I think there's a really like a wide range for both professions, and for me personally, I'd much rather be a lawyer, right? I was like, I don't get my hands dirty, right? Like that's in some literal sense, but like, I don't want to be in someone's guts or like, I mean, I was gonna say cleaning up poop, but it's more like of a nurse thing probably. But like, even if we're talking like, I wouldn't want to be a surgeon, for example. Now, that's not all that doctors do.
Yeah. And
I think some of the diagnostic stuff could be interesting, but also a lot of stuff that doctors have to deal with is kind of disgusting. Like, I'm just fine. Like, if you're a doctor, you probably are used to it at some point. But as a lawyer, I find it much more interesting. I also find the law is generally like a somewhat interesting topic. And so I think that would A, be more interesting to me, and B, would be less unpleasant. So I'll pick lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, I would pick lawyer also. I would just have to be hated because I don't want to dig through somebody's intestines. Yeah. Or in their teeth, man. That's got to be horrible.
49 doctor, 51 lawyer. We were in the majority.
Finally got it.
You know what? Let's just do this one because it just popped up, and then let's finish it. Would you rather have $1 billion or get 1 penny and double it every day?
Ooh, I'm taking the penny, I think. Let's see.
I would have to do the math problem, right?
Yeah, because is it possible for you to live long enough to reach that $1 billion?
I think it might actually not be that long. It might actually be under a year.
Okay, well, absolutely.
So in 10 days, you have 1,024 pennies, mind you, so it's 10 bucks 24. But that means that in 20 days, you have 1 million, right? In 30 days, you have 1 billion. Wow, Jesus! A billion pennies, granted. So it's actually, but yeah, by 40 days, you have like, what does it end up being, like $10 billion? I think after 40 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely.
I think that's how that works out. So yeah, no, the pennies, like obviously the right choice. I just had to go through the math in my head for a second there because I was like, is this a matter of like weeks or is this a matter of decades? And I'm like, exponential functions, you would expect it to be days, but I had to like go through the math because 2 to the 10 is 1024, and then I usually just say for some places like 2 to the 10 is basically 1,000, right? And then and then you just go.
And if you live a decade, you're going to be the richest on earth.
I mean, yeah. I guess that's the other point, right? If you're a billionaire, you are like one of the richest people in the world. Like, I mean, one of the like 10,000 richest people in the world or something. If you have a penny and double it every day, the financial system is going to collapse.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, let's not overthink the implications, but yeah, no, it's double it every day. 66% said penny and double, so at least people were smart about that one.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Log 2 of 1 3 zeros, 3 zeros, and another 3 zeros, right? Is how it works? 29. Oh yeah, right, I said that. 30 days until we get a billion. What I meant to do, obviously, is add 2 zeros, because we were going from pennies to dollars, and so it's 36 and a half days. So 37 days is when you're ahead over the
to get to $1 billion.
Yeah.
Wow. Way sooner than I would have thought.
Yeah, again, right, like exponential growth is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And should never be underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, see, that's the thing. Intuitively, I was like, I know it's gonna explode. I was also not sure how quickly, so I had to like run through it. I just wanted to quickly like double check the actual number. But yeah, 37. That's barely more than a month. Well, it's a month and a week, basically.
Yeah. That's wild.
And 34% of people still pick the billion.
Yeah. I'm like, why? Like you have something that you need to buy that costs $1 billion right now that can't wait a month?
I think it's one of those where people are like, maybe they have a sense that it's gonna be more eventually, but they think like, oh yeah, maybe like in 30 years it's gonna be more or something, and they're like, well, I'd rather have the money now and invest it or something. And they don't realize it's like it's less than 40 days until it's.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, right? Like, I guess you leave the money like right now, and it's like even right now. I mean, as I said, right? It's like $10 in 10 days. It's gonna be like 1,000. Wait, is that how it works out? No, it's 10,000 actually in 20 days, right? So it's like, if you need some money right now, you're gonna have it in a week. Well, in 2 weeks, but
yeah. Like even if you're late on your bill, you're gonna have way more than enough to cover the late fee.
It's like, oh, I might have incurred some overdraft fees in the last 40 days. How much money do I have? Oh, right, yeah, $1 billion.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which, I guess, brings us to our final segment. What is your song of the week?
Oh, it happened to be Space Lord by Monster Magnet. Mother. Yeah. All right, what do you think? You hate it, right?
No, I mean, it's fine. Like, I don't love it, I don't hate it either, right? You know, it's one of those, you know, if it comes on, I'm not going to switch the station, but I'm probably not going to stick out either.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about it. This is not normally their style of music. Like you wouldn't know it, but this song came out in 1998, and this was during nu metal and the hip hop takeover or whatever. Even metal was sounding like hip hop by this point in time. This guy was over 40 when that hit the radio. He was 42 or 43, something like that. I think he was born in 1956. They had been doing psychedelic blues, more like Black Sabbath type stuff their whole career, but then they wanted to put out something that was a little more distorted and down-tuned guitars, something that sounds more like what was happening on the radio at that time, and it took off, and it ended up being their only hit of their career.
So you're saying this is a band I might actually like, but you probably picked one of their worst songs for my personal taste?
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Fair enough. I mean, again, it's nothing terrible. It's just, Oh god.
And you did though. The crazy thing though is almost against what they stood for their entire career. They made a video for this song that was just like the stuff that the hip artists and the new metal bands were doing, like the women dancing half naked in the videos, cars, very expensive cars and jewelry and fancy outfits and Gucci and Versace and all that. And that became their only hit, so people know them for that, even though they are completely different of that. And if you listen to the lyrics, you kind of get a sense that something's going on here, because these lyrics are very psychedelic and out there, and talking about having sex with planets and stuff like that. Has nothing to do with what's on in the video.
Yeah.
But congratulations for getting the hit, though.
I feel like that happens a lot, right? Where I mean, I'm more familiar with it happening when someone's pivots to pop music, right? And it's like, oh yeah, they were like this goth band, or like I mean, even as you said, right? Some people pivot from country, like earlier we talked about Shania Twain. Like they pivot to pop. It's like then they become successful. It's like, yeah, no, that's in this case they pivoted to what was the hottest at the time, and they became more successful that way. Yeah, that's kind of normal. It's a bit disappointing, almost, that it's very hard to like have like an actual like a hit of a genre that isn't like particularly popular at the moment. But yeah, no, I mean that's just what you have to do. And I think it helps probably if you are already establishing yourself as a band and you like have like a firm grasp on like how you make your music, like what you're good at, that sort of thing, and then you start appealing to the trends, where it's probably a lot easier to do that than if you like just started out and wanted to immediately have a hit.
Oh yeah, very true, very true. Interesting story though.
Actually, similar story, right? My song of the week, and I don't have the full story from the top of my head, but is "Come On Eileen" by Dexy's Midnight Runners. Yeah, because that is also not necessarily their most typical style for Dexys Midnight Runners. It's been a while. I saw the One Hit Wonderland on this song a while back, and yeah, no, it's another one of those where this is their only hit song, and it's maybe not most representative of their oeuvre. But yeah, no, what is it? The English pop rock band from Birmingham with soul influences who achieved major commercial success in the early 80s, they're best known for the UK for their songs Gino and Come On Eileen. Okay, so there were two in the UK. Yeah, and I think it's the only Billboard charting hit, Come On Eileen. It doesn't really talk a lot about personnel changes here in the lead of the Wikipedia article, but they don't really talk about their style all that much. Genres, it lists pop rock, new wave, blue-eyed soul, and Celtic folk. But yeah,
you know what the lyrics are about, right?
Not exactly. I mean, I have listened to them, but I haven't really researched them.
Coercing someone into having sex.
Okay, that checks out. I mean, like he was like, what is it? You in that dress, my thoughts I confess, virgin dirty. It's like, yeah, no. I mean, it was clear there was something going on. I wasn't quite so sure. I think, does he also talk about like knowing her as a child and stuff like that, which is also like not at all creepy?
Waiting for her to turn of legal age. Yeah,
but hey, it's a good sounding song.
Great song though. It's just the questionable lyrics. Yeah,
I mean, yeah. I've always been more of a sound over lyrics kind of a guy. I mean, I do like if there are vocals in my music, but it's always more about how it sounds than what it's saying most of the time. So
yeah,
it sounds really good,
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I can't help it. I analyze every song I listen to. I analyze the lyrics. I mean, I've been writing lyrics my whole life, so I have to understand what the song is about, and so yeah, that one's It was a different time. I'll just say that.
I mean, yeah, that definitely. I mean, musicians and age of consent has always been a bit of a thing. Speaking of a different time, like rock stars, like sleeping with underage fans, that sort of thing. That was just like what it meant to be a rock star back then, and yikes!
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Elvis can tell you all about it.
Well, on that note, I guess that brings this episode of the Trash Talk Podcast to a close. If you want to see more, dislike to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a like. And if you have something to say, leave a comment or join the Discord. So links in the description below. Smokey.
That's it.
That's it.